Now let's look at discussion forums. When done well, discussions can be an effective engine in online learning. Many of you are familiar with Bloom's taxonomy, a representation of the different levels of learning. The bottom layers represent shallow learning, such as remembering and understanding. As you move higher up the pyramid, the required thinking becomes more complex. Our goal in discussion forums is to lead students to higher order thinking. For fostering higher order thinking, asynchronous online discussions have some big advantages over face-to-face discussions. First, everyone must answer. Unlike a face-to-face course where some people always answer and others never answer, everyone participates in online discussions. Number 2, students have time to think. They can take time to think about the prompt you give them, and they can take time to think about and formulate their post. This is a different dynamic than being called on in a face-to-face class and having to answer on the spot. Advantage number 3, students can research their answers. Now let's go back to this guy here. This is Socrates. The Socratic method is ideal for online forums. In a good forum, the instructor will ask many questions and let students make the statements. When you host your forums, here is a technique that seems to work well. Link and think. The idea is to read a student response and explicitly link your response to their post, thus the link. After linking to the ideas of the student's post, you then pose a question to get the class to think. Here's how it works. Here is the first portion of my response to a student post. It reads, Mary mentions the tension between the king and the brother. Notice that I explicitly link to what the student wrote. Notice that I name the student. This acknowledges Mary's contribution. In the rest of the sentence, I demonstrate that I did indeed read the student's post because I'm including information from the student's post in my reply. The brown portion poses a question. It reads, what clues might indicate the brother's motivation? This is the think portion of the response that is designed to ask the class for their input. To indicate that you want the entire class to join in, you can begin the sentence with, does anyone have an idea what clues? And then you would finish the sentence. The idea is that you are using questions to spur students to think. On the other hand, if you were to just give answers and statements and share your expertise instead of asking questions, you might hamper or terminate what would have been a robust dialogue. Think of an online discussion as a campfire. It takes a delicate balance of fuel and air to get it going. But once it gets going, ideally you will just nudge and prompt students so they can take off with the discussion on their own. Avoid the temptation to answer everything. Rather, attempt to draw information from the students through your questioning. The question comes up frequently, how should I grade forum participation? Do not grade by the number of clicks a student makes. Clicks do not indicate higher order thinking. Some instructors grade by the pound. That is to say, they set minimum word requirements. I understand the thought behind that, but consider this. In 1863, Edward Everett was the featured speaker at a dedication. His speech lasted 2 hours and contained more than 13,000 words. He was followed by another speaker. The second speaker spoke only 2 minutes and used only 270 words. The speech was Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, and it is known as the greatest American speech. However, if these two gentlemen were in an online course with a 300-word minimum, Lincoln would get a lower grade than Everett. If we have minimums, we need to look at quality, not just quantity. You may ask, if I don't have minimums, how can I get students to provide adequate responses? The answer is feedback. First, have a discussion rubric. Second, after the first postings, email each student. That's right, email. Personalized email feedback complementing the good points of the students' first posts. Explain what needs to be improved regarding posts that reflect higher order thinking. If someone is below your standard, explain that from now on, points will be deducted for subpar posts. Encourage the student to take time when writing posts because you enjoy reading them. Think what that does when a university instructor takes time to correspond with a student. Number 1, it gives notice that the instructor really does read this stuff. Number 2, it clarifies expectations, which improves the discussion quality. Students know exactly what you want, so they can give it to you. No more guessing. Number 3, it increases accountability, which improves student contributions to the discussion. What recommendations do you have for facilitating or grading forums?